Camera action. Okay, what's going on, everybody? It's Blaze over here at the Blue Chip Athletic Club podcast, and I'm stoked to bring on Hannah, old friend from school. Real quick, before we get going, though, I want to shout out our partners over at First Form. Thanks for working with us. We're not going to belabor that too long. I'm going to get into Hannah. So, real quick, I want to give like a I almost like feel bad kind of story. The reason that we ran into one another was at the High Rocks race in Miami. And ironically enough, like I was sitting in line for the race, or like in line for the bathroom. And I was like, I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure that's Hannah right there. But I was like, I don't know if I should say hi. Should I not say hi? And I was like sitting there and I was like, what do I do? So I just wanted to let you know that I had that whole like internal battle of like, I recognize you, but I don't know if you recognize me type of thing.
Yeah.
And then, it was really funny.
I was like, oh, I know who that is.
Oh, I felt bad. Okay. Tell everybody who you are, like where you're from, and what you do. Origin story as far back as you want.
Yeah. So I'm Hannah Heiken. I'm from Tampa, Florida. I currently have a protein cookie brownie baked goods company called Sweet Profections. I was in the Coast Guard. That took me to New Orleans, which is kind of where this all got started. And once I was getting out of the Coast Guard, I realized I needed a job. So that's kind of really how this started.
Cool. Yeah.
I don't know how in depth to go right now.
Yeah. What's crazy to me is that you chose arguably the hardest thing that you could do, which is entrepreneurship after being in the service. Tell me about that, like transition over to like starting your own business and doing that whole thing, because that is I will say from experience, a terrifying thing to kind of jump into.
Yeah, totally.
Just because.
It's not easy. I'm working more than I was when I was stationed on a boat for 2 months at a time. But yeah, being my own boss, I think, was like the biggest perk of this. When I was in the Coast Guard, I did not have the best boss while I was on a boat, which kind of put a bad taste in my mouth about working for other people. And then when I was like sort of transitioning out of the Coast Guard, I was a personal trainer for a little bit, worked for a big box gym, also had a terrible boss. So I was like, maybe working for myself is the way to go. So that's kind of how that came about. And then like the people that I was like surrounding myself with, my friends in New Orleans, were all like really high performers, also entrepreneurs. So it kind of eased the transition, having people to talk to about it and who had been there before.
Yeah, dude, talk about a crazy shift though. You're going from sailing for 2 to 3 months on a ship with a bunch of high-speed military people, and then bouncing out into this like other crazy space. Tell like there's a lot of people that listen to this that have no idea like what the Coast Guard does underway. Do you want to like kind of bridge the gap and tell people about a little bit about what you were doing, in service, and then kind of like now what your day-to-day looks like running your own business?
Yeah, so when I first graduated from the academy, I was stationed on a 210-foot cutter out of St. Pete, Florida. And we make this make sense. 90% of our patrols were to the Pacific. So going from St. Pete to the Pacific, which, whatever.
That's through the Panama Canal for anybody who's, for anyone who doesn't know.
Which is very cool the first and the second time, but the seventh and eighth times were not quite as fun. But yeah, we mostly did counter drug operations out in the Pacific. That was our primary thing. We worked a lot with aviation. We had some helicopters on board at times.
Shout out to the homies. Yeah. What was your like day to day, like you're underway, and like what's your you're waking up at whatever. What's your wake up time? Were you blessed 4 to 8?
Yeah, I mean, we rotated through. So like at its worst was double 4 to 8. So working from 3:30 to 7:30 on watch, and then you went immediately into the workday until 4 or 3:30 when you went back on watch again until 7:30. So it was like a very very full day, and then you immediately went to sleep and woke up at 3 and did it all over again. Which honestly prepared me really well for this, because I have been having some 15-hour days of just straight baking recently. So it's the hard work and long days have definitely taught me how to handle the entrepreneurship phase.
Yeah. So what's a normal day look like now, being your own boss and not getting yelled at by people that you don't love, respect, or want to work for?
I yell at myself most of the
Oh, good.
time.
So it's still there. It's still there.
Yeah, it's still there, very much so. But I love and respect myself, so it's different.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
So every day is, I kind of have like a schedule throughout the week. So Mondays are usually like working on the business as opposed to working in the business. So Mondays are for like fixing stuff on the website or improving things, or how can I like make my pop-up setup cuter, or how can I, develop new things to grow the business. Tuesdays are for like recipe development, new flavor ideas and whatnot. And then I start baking on Tuesdays as well. And then Wednesday and Thursday are just straight baking days, like up at 5:30, and then I'm done when I'm done. Like normally if it's like a long day, I'll call it a day at like 9-10 o'clock at night,
That's
just for my sanity. And then I'm up again at 5:30 on Friday to finish up whatever needs to be finished up and ship everything out. And then I do all my like local delivery stuff on Friday too. So every day is kind of different, which is nice because I'm not just like baking all day every day. But there's like I've come up with a good flow that works for now.
yeah, for sure. And do you manage your own website? You do all that stuff on your own too?
I do everything. This is
Dude, yeah.
really a one-woman show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny, like people will be like, "Oh yeah, you just like hire on help." It's like, not really. Like you're like the janitor, you're the
Oh, for
tech
sure.
support, you're the baker, you're the like every single thing that kind of goes into it, which makes you
Yeah.
care almost like it's a human child, you know?
Oh, for sure. And like that's the problem. Like I don't want to hire anyone because no one is going to do the same job that I can do. And if I'm not like micromanaging, and I hate doing that, but like no one is going to care as much as I care. Like I know in the future if I'm going to grow, like I obviously need to hire someone, but it's going to hurt.
For sure. Yeah, it's a really tough balance, and I totally agree with you. I think like you have to almost push like your message and the why of what you're doing, and then like be okay with somebody giving a, it's 60 to 80% of what you would normally do, and then you're like, well, this is going to be okay because it saved me X amount of time on the backside, which is really
Yeah.
really tough to do, especially if
Yeah.
you've poured your blood, sweat, and tears into the thing. I totally understand and can empathize with that for sure. So why protein cookies? Like, what was the reason that you were like, oh, like this is going to be the passion project? Like, this is the entrepreneurship thing I'm going to dive into. Like, what was the driver for being into the baked goods game?
Yeah. So I have a really, really big sweet tooth. Like if I could not eat sweets, I would be like the fittest person on the planet. But like my sweet tooth is out of control. So I was so back in New Orleans, I was ordering from this meal prep company. They don't exist anymore, but they had these muffins and for their as their desserts, these protein muffins, and they were so bad. They were hard and dry and just not good. And so I was like playing around with some recipes just to make something yummy for myself. Um, and I like came up with this donut recipe after I had a few like frisbees that were baked. Finally came up with a recipe that actually worked, that tasted good. And at this time I was like thinking about getting out of the Coast Guard as well. I was like, well, I'm gonna need a job. I don't know what I want to do in the real world. um,
I
I
still
don't
don't,
know
so
what
if it makes
skills.
you feel any better, yeah.
Huh?
I said
No.
I still don't if it makes you feel any better, you know?
Yeah, but at least your skills, like you can fly out in the real world. It's not like I could, I don't even know,
You
coordinate
could,
search and rescue missions in the
yeah,
real
yeah,
world.
you can just
No,
be a cop, dude. You could be a cop.
no, absolutely not. Um, but yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna need a job if I'm gonna get out of the Coast Guard. And so I went up. I knew I was friends with the owner of the meal prep company, so I went up to him. I was like, "Here, try this." He was like, "Really good." And how would you? And this was like kind of what I was going for. He was like, "How would you like to be the dessert side of the meal prep company?" And I was like, "Thought you never ask." Um, and so that's kind of how it all started. I baked donuts for this meal prep company, and I had my own business on the side. It was called Hannah's Healthy Donuts. Um, but that was like my own business was maybe like 10% of like the income that I got, and like 90% was through them. And it was going really well until they closed later that year. And I got like a week notice. So I like scrambled and I was like, oh gosh, like this is what I have committed to now. And I love it. I love baking and I love doing this, but now I have to really go out and grow on my own and be that entrepreneur and not work for someone, but like actually build this thing and see what it can be. And it was the best thing that could have happened, obviously. Um, so then I started messing around with like cookies because donuts are hard to ship. Um, and they're more expensive to ship with all like the plastic stuff that you need. So I started trying to figure out like what'll be cheaper to ship and like what's popular now. People love cookies. Like you see all these cookie companies everywhere, and protein cookies like Lenny and Larry's and stuff like that. And then I was like, these protein cookie companies, like they're either not really protein cookies. Like they'll have like 10 grams of protein or something stupid, and like 60 grams of carbs, and it's like full of sugar. And I was like, this is a space that can be revamped into something that is actually like better for you. And so I worked my little butt off trying to get a good recipe for that, and finally did, and it's going really well.
How long did it take for you to be like in the lab to figure out like your kind of flow for the first couple? Yeah, I feel like I almost think like you're like Thomas Edison over there working on the first light bulb, you're just like over like, oh, but not this one. You're throwing cookies out the
No,
window.
it's not easy because like different protein types bake differently, different brands of protein bake differently, and like you find one that works, and then it's sold out, and then it's not easy. And then especially like trying to get the macros down to what I wanted them to be was a challenge for them to actually taste good as well. But it all ended up working out, and I am obsessed with the product that I have now.
Yeah, dude, I'll give you a quick plug too. When I first saw you down in Miami in April, I was like, "Oh, what are you doing now?" You're like, "Oh, I have a protein cooking company." I was like, "Yes, I will be ordering." Like, I wanted to make sure that I like got, and I think I ordered like 4 or 5 of them of different flavors, and dude, they were all super good. So not trying to gas you up in any way. I'll give a real review of like these were awesome. I put them in like, oh geez, I think I put them in like a Ninja Creamy at one point, and like
A lot of people do that.
smoked
Like,
it up in there. Put them on top of like yogurt stuff too. Like it was really really good. So first off, keep doing that.
oh,
And then
I will.
yeah, yeah. And then what do you like? Maybe in the beginning you said you're making like donuts and stuff, and you're baking for I don't know how many people, but now did you like project and see like, hey, like this is where this is gonna be, and now I'm doing this thing where I'm baking for 2.5 days straight to ship product out. Like, was that ever something
Oh,
that was purview and of thought of like, this is what I could do almost full time?
I think that my problem as an entrepreneur is that I am very like, what am I doing tomorrow? Like, this is what's happening tomorrow. I don't know where I want to take this. I don't know if I want this to be like a huge thing. Obviously, when I was first starting out, I realized like I need this to be my full time job. So I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make it that way. So there was a lot of hustle at the beginning, and there still is now, but like I'm at a point where I'm like almost where I can be on my own, like 15-hour baking days. Like that's not exactly the most sustainable thing, but it's the grind, I guess. And obviously I want the business to grow, but I don't know, like, do in 5 years, do I want it to be huge and like, I don't know, like Lenny and Larry's all over grocery stores and stuff, or do I want to keep it more like in-house, still have just me working for me? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough question. You almost have to think about like what the lifestyle is that you want to live at some point. Do you want to be in a corporate office, or do you want to continue to be on the front
Yeah.
lines baking and kind of doing the things that you love? So it's a
Yeah,
tough
people
tough
ask me that and
decisions.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, dude, that's good. And anybody who tells you they do know what they want to do is full of shit anyway. So they probably just haven't asked the right questions anyway. So um
Fair.
tell me, like, what possessed you to do the High Rocks race? Like, you're like, hey, I was a
Oh,
personal trainer. You're like, hey, you're running the protein cookie company living in Florida, and now you're like, oh, I'm just gonna go do this horrible race. And you can like break it down for people too, because not everybody knows what it is. So tell me a little bit about your High Rocks desires and what kind of sparked that.
I had zero High Rocks desires. I looked at that race and I was like, this is not something I'm interested in. It's the same thing every time. I like so I do backtrack a little bit. I mostly like trained and competed for like tactical games competitions, which is like kind of like a mix between like CrossFit and shooting. Um so that was exciting for me. It's different every time. You go into the weekend having no idea what you're going to get thrown into. And it's like the unknown for me that like is exciting for me. So I looked at this High Rocks thing and I'm like, it's the same thing every time. It's a lot of running. I don't love running. It's just not something I can see myself doing.
Checks out.
Um,
Checks out.
but my Achilles heel is that when my friends say, hey, do you want to do this thing? I do the thing. So, I had some friends back in New Orleans that were like, "Hey, we're signing up for High Rocks. Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Yep, guess so." So that was that. Here we are. I actually had a lot of fun.
Yeah, did you train specifically for it for a while, or were you just kind of going in just like, yep, I'm just gonna do my own thing and see how it goes?
No, I did. It was like five or 6 months of High Rocks training, and the first like 2 or 3 months, I was like, I hate every day of training. I hate this. I wish I wasn't doing this, but my friends are doing it and I have FOMO, so I'm gonna do it. Um, I hated the running. I hated all the cardio, and now I love running. And I like do these running challenges with some girls at the gym. As we ran 50 miles last month. We upped it to 55 this month. So, things change.
And the
Desires
evolution of
change.
a runner. I feel like I should, if I had like a nickel for every time I heard somebody say I hated running, and then I did this thing that almost like forced me to do it, and then they end up liking it. You
Yeah.
would be like super rich, dude. There's a lot of people that have a similar story of like, hey, that like,
You wouldn't even need to work.
dude, I'm telling you, yeah, that'd be it. You just throw that into a high yield savings account, and you're ready to rock. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's crazy. Like I feel like there's a lot of people that do that. They get off not running at all, and then they sign up for some event, whether it's a 5K or a High Rocks race or a half marathon, and you have to train for that if you want it to go well. And, and then by the end, you're like, oh, I kind of am like a runner now, and then
Yeah.
it like becomes
Here we
part of
are.
your identity, which is wild.
How
What's
did the
your
High Rocks go for you? Oh, sorry. I don't know if
Oh,
I'm
good.
allowed to ask you a
So,
question.
oh man, High Rocks for me. So that I did a race in I want to say it was November of last year. Might have been a little bit earlier. I forget the time, but I went down to LA and I actually stayed with Pat Hanrahan and did the race with him where we ran like at the same time. But we did
Mhm.
it individually. So we did the
Okay.
individuals open, and this is a funny story too. So when you sign up for High Rocks, I'm sure you did it the same way as everybody else. You go online, you pick up your stuff, and they asked you like 3 questions if you had never done the race before to like sort you into your thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, dude, like I'm a coach. and this is my ego totally getting in the way. I was like, I'm a coach, I'm a relatively fit person. Like I know that I'm like pretty competitive. So I like answer these 3 questions and they're like, you should do open. And I like looked at the thing and I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? Like, you're going to put me in the open division? Like, I'm like, I could, do what all these other things. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do the open division. I'm going to do what they tell me to do. I did not let my like horrible, piece of my ego get in the way and sign up for
Good
the
for
pro
you.
division. Oh my God, dude. I'm so glad that I did that because I did the race. My goal was under an hour and a half on my individuals one. I think I did it like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. And when I finished the race, I like turned like right after I finished, they opened the pro division, and it wasn't even like the pro guys that are like setting records. It was like the pro heat before then, and I felt like I was in the Lion King movie where like Simba is like looking up the big like thing, and all these like wildebeests are running down all at once, like right at me. Because those guys run like a 5.5 minute mile pace around the
Yeah.
track, and then they go in and do 80 meters of burpee broad jumps, and it is absolutely bananas. And I'm a lot of things, and feel like I'm relatively fit, but that ain't me. I'm not running a 5:30 and doing that thing, at least not right
No,
now.
there's some fast people.
Yeah, dude, it's wild. They're built like 400 or 800 meter sprinters, and they do that the whole time, and they're done in under an hour by themselves, and it's insane. But I signed up for that race, and I did singles, and I was like, this is really fun. But Miami, we work with clients kind of all over the U.S. And one of my clients who's in Chicago was like, hey, I'm looking for like another challenge, and I was like, dude, let's compete in the duos together. So Matt, I felt bad. It was like we're training together, and I put him through the gauntlet of prepping for that event, and then we got to like kind of meet really for the first time and hang out and stay together and almost like use it as a retreat. There's another client of mine who's in Southern California who came as well, so we almost use it as like a getaway with us three. We went out and did the race and cheered each other on, and it was like super super cool to get to hang out and go out to dinners and just kind of be there for the event. So I
That's
will
awesome.
say if I do another one, if and when, because I actually talked to Pat the other day about doing it. I think duos is my space. Like I feel like doing it with somebody else is like just way more fun. Like doing it by yourself is great for the challenge, but when you do it with somebody else, like you're running with somebody else, they're encouraging you. You get to like split the stations, which I think is great. Like you can really, really push it, and then kind of recover some if you have a little bit of strategy. So I was a big fan of the format for the duos. So maybe that's a plug for anybody who's on the fence about the thing to do.
Yeah, like individual was exhausting and great. I'd definitely be down to do a doubles event at some point with someone.
Yeah, I think it was great. And just like the fact that you're running next to somebody who's like your buddy and whatnot. Fitness is always better with somebody else. Like when you're doing it by yourself, it sucks and it's hard. And that there's a place for that for sure. But I think that place there is like go do it with somebody else, go bond, have fun, and that's more of what it's about than because you're probably not competing in the pro division and actually competing in the pro division. Exhibit A being me, being that guy. So.
Yeah, I mean, I could never see myself like going to an event alone. Like, I couldn't imagine being there without like the people who I was there with. Granted, I competed alone, but like I had those people like cheering me on the sidelines. I couldn't imagine like not having some sort of like support.
For sure. I think it would also like take away from the whole reason that you do it, right? Like people, especially and now like men in particular, have to like create reasons to hang out with one another. It's like so bizarre. Like they're like, oh, we have to like let's go like watch a game when really you just want to hang out with your buddy, but you don't want to say that like out loud. You're just like you have to use this like central event of like going to watch football or go running a race or whatever to just hang out with one another. So I feel like you're like missing the point if you're not doing that key piece of bonding.
Yeah.
I know women are much better about just being like, let's just hang out, but men are terrible at it. So, cool. Tell me a little bit about like, oh man, like entrepreneurship, I'd share like a brief story. Like when I started doing this a couple years ago, I felt like I got a lot of like support right away when you like launch the business. You know, people are like, "Oh, this is like super cool. Like congratulations." And then I feel like that support like drastically falls off, for better for worse. Like I had felt this at least in the personal training space, just because like um you have to then embody part of like the things that you're doing, and like you become like a platform for what you have going on. And then beyond that, like I feel like the entrepreneurial space can be relatively lonely. Like there's a lot of like other people that aren't doing that. They're working a 9 to 5. They are doing the military job, when they kind of have like a guaranteed paycheck, whether you show up or not, you get like paid time off. So I want to hear like a little bit about like your experience with launching, and then like where you are now. Like how is your support structure? Do you have like coaches that are in the entrepreneurial space as well? Like I'm curious how that's been for you over the course of your tenure with Sweet Profections, which was previously, what was it? Healthy Donuts by
Hannah's
Hannah.
Healthy Donuts.
Yeah. Which that's a pretty catchy name too. I'm not gonna
Oh
lie.
no, it's not. um, but yeah, I guess I don't feel like my support has ever like dwindled since I started. One of the great things is that no one has ever been like, "Why are you doing this? This is dumb," which I know that a lot of like entrepreneurs experience at some point, like the negativity, um, and people like saying, "You could never do that," or "This is stupid." Like I never experienced that, which is great. Um, and like my friends have always supported me. Um, like they're either high performers in their own career spaces or high performing entrepreneurs as well. So I've had these people as mentors um, throughout the entire time. Like the friend who owned the meal prep company, like he's one of my biggest mentors and one of my good friends. He especially starting out, he helped me so much. Like he would throw ideas my way. He'd be like, "You're doing it this way. Why don't you do it this way?" Um, so there's always been just a lot of support, like either friends ordering from me or like promoting the product. I don't feel like that has really changed that much, which is a testament to the people that I surround myself with, I guess, which is nice. Um, and then, yeah, I had that one good friend who has like, I can reach out at any point and be like, "Hey, do you have any ideas for this, or can you help me with this?" Which is nice. And then at one point, I did pay for like a business coach kind of situation. I don't know. You probably know who he is, Mike Krausen. Um, he's okay. I don't know like when you got into First Form, but he's married to Paula Charnello. Maybe not. Okay. She was like with First Form a few years ago, so maybe it was before you were introduced to it. But he had this business coaching business at one point, and it was it was pretty helpful as just like starting out, like trying to figure out like I don't know if I'm actually doing this right. It didn't last very long. He moved on to other things, but it was helpful, I guess. I don't know if I would really pay for business coaching again, just because I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of just figuring it out as I go, and it's working. Also, ChatGPT is super helpful now. I know it's. I know people have mixed reviews on how they feel about AI stuff, but as an entrepreneur, like if I need ideas for something, it's there, and it helps a lot. So,
Dude, I'm with you. I feel like if you're not on the AI train, like you're probably just getting left behind at a certain
I
point. Like there's
know,
just no
and
way to not kind of get on board.
yeah, and it's scary, and it sucks that like it's taking business away from people. But as an entrepreneur who has limited funds hanging around, like it's nice to have a um, free thing to turn to for sure.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
assistant, it can be kind of anything you want it to be. And it's funny, like I plug ChatGPT all the time, or whatever you want to use. Like I don't know if there's ever a time where like our business model or something like that goes away, like privatized coaching with a person that's able to like talk to you about nutrition habits, program things for you. But realistically, like a lot of that stuff could probably be done with ChatGPT, right? Like there's a personal feel that I think like people typically buy, and I think you're probably a testament to this as well. Like people aren't necessarily buying like your cookies right away, right? They're buying like you. So like Hannah is a good person. I realized that, I almost didn't really care what type of cookies I bought when I found out that you had the business. I bought it because like I know you, I think that you'll make a good product and support you. And then I was like, okay, sweet. This checks all of the boxes. And then is something that we wanted to like do and continue to do, which actually I need to hit you up about putting in a mass order for a nutrition challenge we just finished. So we'll put a ear in that for a minute. But I think like it's funny, like the ChatGPT world makes that kind of weird though, because if I'm somebody who's starting out in the gym and you don't really know what you want, like I would tell people all the time, like, dude, just go on ChatGPT and ask it to write you a 30-minute training session that targets X, Y, or Z, and it gets you in and out, and you're able to do that, and that's a great starting point. Or like, how do I what's a macronutrient? Like they can teach you so much about the space. And what we're trying to like find is somebody who really needs that like personal touch of like, hey, I know what to do. I know what these things are, but I don't know how to apply it. And that's why I think like having that they call it a master nutrition certification. I don't know if you're ever really a master at everything ever. Because especially in health, because it changes so much, and I'm sure you see it all the time too. But it's really like nutritional habits and those fundamental like coaching things I don't think ever change, but people need to know that they're on the right track, and that it's not going to happen overnight. Definitely hasn't happened for me overnight. Like there's a photo of me when I was in flight school of like I was 230 pounds. That was the strongest I'd ever been, but like I didn't move the way I wanted. And the Navy told me, they were like, hey, dude, if you gain an extra pound, you're going to be too heavy for the ejection seat. And I couldn't fly the plane that I was in. And I was like, okay, something definitely needs to change and give. And although I was working out 2 hours a day, all these other things, like I finally hit 3 plates on the bench press, which who cares, by the way, about that? Like nobody did except for me. But I like realizing these things like later on, and then shifting to the model of like, why am I training? What am I doing this for? And helping other people cut through the noise is really what we're trying to do. So it's funny, like you talk about like, hey, you're surrounding yourselves with the right people. And that I think is just so important, because when you have that, then they're going to buy you, they're going to buy the thing that you do. And then you get a customer or somebody else that's loyal for life. Like anytime somebody asks me about like a protein cookie, I'm referring them to you. I'm like, hey, go check this out. Go see this brand, because I've read the label of other companies. I don't want to shame them too much. And then I've read yours, and I'm very much so on board with what you're doing versus what they're doing. And that's not only a testament to like who you are and what you've done, but also like, why would we support them when we could support a friend who's doing the same thing and support that whole thing. So all of that to say, like, I think the people that you surround yourself with matter. And I think AI will do some of those things for you, but it will never give you that personal touch that somebody can, or knowing you and being able to kind of support that, I think is something that is never going to truly go away.
No, for sure. And then like having that accountability as well. Like you can have all the tools handed to you. If you don't have an actual person telling, like with their eyeballs on you or checking in, like they're not going to do it.
Yeah, for sure. It's like super easy. And the question is like, why aren't you there already? Like why aren't we already doing the thing if you already know all these things? And that's why we have doctors that are overweight and the worst obesity stats in the world, but we have the most access to all this technology that'll tell you everything that you need to know and how to do it. But ease of access, and people are always looking for the path of least resistance, as I'm sure you're aware of too.
I sure am.
Tell me a little bit about like what you do on a day to day. Like we opened the door to the health thing, so now I want to know, like, are you a member? I feel like we talked about it briefly, but you belong to a gym out there? What are you guys usually doing? How often do you go? Tell me about your thing, because if I was around the amount of baked goods that you're around, I would be about 50 pounds heavier. So I'm curious,
Hey,
like
hey, these
how
are
you do.
better for you baked
It's
goods.
true. No, I'm not denying
Granted,
it.
too much of anything is
Yeah,
not good. And I do find myself snacking on it throughout the day.
sampling.
So
You got to
um,
sample. You got to know what you're selling.
no, I know. Sometimes I'll like have a batch of whatever and I'll try it and I'll be like, I didn't add this or this. And I'm like, thank goodness I tried it because it
Yeah,
would have been really bad.
for sure.
um, but yeah, I go to a gym. I mostly like I don't have any competitions on the books right now, so I am dabbling in CrossFit classes. I've been training at a CrossFit gym for years, but since I moved back to Tampa, I'm at CrossFit Hyde Park, which I love. It's like not close to me, but it's so worth the drive. You have like literally world class athletes that go to that gym, and it's just super motivating just to be in that space. So I usually try to go. I'm usually there in the afternoons, if I don't have a 15-hour workday. If I do have a 15-hour workday, then I will take a little chunk out of that day and like go for a run around the neighborhood. I realized while I was doing my high rocks training that one lap around my block is like 0.65 miles. So it was great for intervals because you could do
There's your
your
1,000-meter split right
1K and
there.
then you're
Yeah.
like you could do like your 1K and like a teeny bit of a recovery walk. And I was like, oh, it's perfect. So it's either like a run or like going to a CrossFit class. Um, it's usually
Nice. And
a
how often are
workout.
you doing that usually?
I try to get to CrossFit 4 or 5 times a week if my body can handle it. It was real sore once I like first transitioned from high rocks training back into CrossFit stuff. Oh, my body was hurting. Um, but yeah, I try to get there 4 to 5 times a week if the baking allows for it. If it doesn't, then that will just turn into a run or something at
Nice.
home.
Yeah, because you've entered your running girl era, so you have to make
I
sure that you're giving
have,
it the time of day.
except like you're about to find out, but it is real hot here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Real hot.
I think I've said it on here in the recent episode that I recorded, but for those of you that don't know, I move into the same area as Hannah, in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area, and knowing the humidity over there and what kind of punches you in the mouth when you step outside.
It really
Uh,
does.
yeah, dude. Yeah, I know. Right now, like I think Sacramento. Let me see. Let me see what this says for the temp outside. I want to say it was like, yeah. So right now it's 63 degrees and like dry. It's pretty nice out, like sunny. It's gonna get up to 90 degrees later, but even the 90 degrees here is nothing like 90 degrees down there. Like
No,
you
it's
could, yeah,
yeah, this week is actually cooler than normal. It's getting up to 88, which is not as bad as it normally is. And it's but normally like I get in my car and it's like 101 or something.
yeah. Especially like heat index wise, is like punching you in the mouth. You're like, not ready for this. That's why you got the beach though. You're right there. You got to pop
Oh, I know.
over.
I've been beaching it up. It's been great.
Good. That's what happens when you
Yeah.
work for yourself. You can take an afternoon and just go hit the beach.
No. You heard my schedule. There's no taking
You're
taking
not
time
doing that in the
with the
middle of
day.
baking. You're not just throwing it
I
down.
work I bust my ass during the week so that I can make sure that I have the weekend off to go to the beach.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's actually a great lead in to like what you're working super hard during the week. So you're off on the weekend. You like say like, hey, I'm not gonna do stuff on Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, so when I first started baking in New Orleans with that meal prep company, we shared a kitchen with a catering company, and the only times that we would be able to have space in that kitchen was on the weekends. So for almost a year, I worked every single weekend. So once that was over, I said to myself, never again. So I will work as many hours as I need to during the week to make sure that I have my weekends off. Especially because I have a boyfriend now, so I want to make sure that
Hey
I can spend
now.
time with him too.
Yeah. No,
I don't want
I
to
think
miss that.
I think too, like you want to talk about like importance of like work and time off, right? Like that is just so key. Like I have fallen in the trap, the we'll call the entrepreneurial or grind trap, where you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna work, 16-hour days like every single day, like, Monday to Sunday, and then restart the next week. Um, and dude, it like you can be as much of a grinder as you want. You can say that you like work super hard and you do those things, and that's probably true. But you will hit like a point where you're like parts of your life are going to fall off, whether that's relationship with a partner, boyfriend, whatever, whether that's like your social circle, your friends stop inviting you out places because you just keep saying no because you want to stay in work. Maybe it's like your health. Maybe you're not getting to the gym and doing those things. So like we always like preach like a whole health kind of approach to your health and wellness in general. And like if you're like mental, emotional, like physical, all those things aren't kind of coming together to form like the picture life that you want, like it's probably not working. And I was like a walking testament that like my physical health was great. My mental health was not great because I was working way too much. And then my like relationships and social health was like in the dumpster because I wasn't hanging out with any of my friends because I was just like in this office grinding all the time, which, oh yeah, super cool when you're, making money, doing all these things, signing clients, all this stuff. But like at a certain point, I was like, I need to like set a boundary and like make sure that that boundary stays, or else I'm gonna like lose those other things that like help make me successful in this space and give me some time to like step away, which I think is just super super important, especially when you are working for yourself and you could like hypothetically work all the time and sometimes you feel like you're not doing enough.
Yeah, I feel like that's an entrepreneur rite of passage to like go through that. You're like, oh, I gotta grind, 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 get all this done, and then you start to realize that you have no friends, you hate your life, and either you like your spare time is in the gym, or you either gain weight because you're not going to the gym,
Yeah.
and you it takes some time to figure it out, but I feel like every entrepreneur goes through that and eventually figures it out.
Yeah, you ask yourself like, what's it worth, dude? Like, you want to like look back and 10 years, you're not gonna remember like any of the long days that you had working, but you're gonna be like, oh, I missed out on so and so's wedding or birthday party or spending time with these people, and it's yeah, the hindsight being 2020, you're like, what a fucking waste of time.
Yeah,
Why am I
and
doing
that's
this to myself? So yeah, I totally get it. I think that a lot of people will go through it in their own time and space, and maybe it's not early on, maybe it's like in the middle or when, and there's to that point there's probably seasons when you have to probably work a little bit harder, and you talked about it earlier too, but definitely when you can find a way to set the boundary, and I don't want to say put things on cruise control, but have your schedule, work hard in that time, and then step away. I think it's super key too.
yeah, and like even like within the business, like you can do the same thing. Like I had so many weeks in a row where yes, I had my weekends off, but like during the week was so stressful that it was like really, really affecting me. And I was like, well, I don't want to like fall off on business because what if I have one bad week and then people don't come back and order again, and like that was making me like really try to push every week, like do something every single week to grow the business or to like keep things moving. And I was like talking to my mom, and she was like, just chill, just take a week and chill. So like a couple weeks ago, I didn't do any advertising, I didn't post anything, I didn't make a new flavor, and I just like I let whatever was going to happen, and it was like much more of a chill, slower week. Like I still got orders, I still baked, but it was like I wasn't having 15-hour days. I wasn't pulling my hair out yelling at myself like so like even like within the weeks, like I can still like find that balance as well. and then
Yeah,
like
good for you,
go try
dude.
the
That's
next
hard to do.
one.
That's super
Yeah,
hard to
and
do.
I'm
Good for
just
you.
realizing.
Yeah, yeah. I still haven't realized it, so you're definitely well ahead over here. Um, yeah, no, dude, I really appreciate you popping on to chat. I think like a lot of the stuff that we talked about was super helpful. Real quick, give yourself a little shout out. What's the page? How can people get in contact with you for cookies, baked goods, kind of whatever? Just throw your plugs out, and then I'll leave the stuff in the show notes too. But go ahead and shout out the page and make sure you spell it so that people know.
Yeah. So Instagram, website, Facebook is just Sweet Profections, Sweet SWEET, Profections like protein, PROFECTIONS.
I put you on the spot, dude. You did great, though. You did great.
That's a long word.
Yeah, it is.
um,
No, sweet. I'm
but
stoked. Like I said, I love the stuff that Hannah's doing. I'm super excited to continue to order cookies from them to help give my sweet tooth something to gnaw on that's going to be a little bit happier and healthier for me. Do you have any like closing words or advice for any like entrepreneurs out there or people trying to take a leap of faith there or train for a High Rocks event and start their running career?
for High Rocks, just hate it until you don't. For entrepreneurs, if it's something that you want to work, like if it's something that you see yourself doing long term, like work at it and make it work. Like there have been plenty of times where I could have just been like, this isn't going to work out. Like I'll have to try to find something else. And I was like, no, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be the thing that I do. I'm going to make it work. And I feel like that's been like the biggest thing for me.
Nice, dude. You heard it here first, folks. Sweet, Hannah. Thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it. I'll drop all of her stuff in the show notes for everybody. And let's see if I can get this right this time. Just remember, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. We'll see you guys next time.